Okay, we'd like to welcome George Takei to my show, and we're going to talk a little bit about Star Trek and other things. Thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure being
Appreciate it.
here.
We'll start at the beginning. How were you originally chosen for the role of then Lieutenant Sulu when the first series started?
Well, my agent called and told me that he had an interview set up for me with a producer named Gene Roddenberry, whom I didn't know from Adam. And the other information that he gave to me was that, one, it was a science fiction series, two, that it was a pilot film that had a good potential for selling, and three, and most importantly, that my character was going to be a regular character on the series. That's the point that interested me the most, because it meant steady employment. And
Good
back
work.
in those days, jobs were far and few between, so that was very attractive. Went for the interview, and a couple of days later, my agent called again and said I had the part. So not anything too dramatic.
What was your family's reaction to your winning the role as well as being on the show?
They were pleased, but they were kind of resigned. My father really didn't want me to be an actor, and he was still kind of lobbying me to
get
I'd
out.
gotten my master's degree in theater arts, and that still didn't fully persuade him, because a traditional Japanese-American father, wants his son to be steadily, regularly employed, and that wasn't happening with his actor son. And so he was trying to get me to reconsider and maybe, go back for a teaching credential, or maybe even go back to architecture school. And so they were glad that I was employed, but they also thought, the business of show business is not very steady and secure, and that maybe I should still be thinking in terms of getting something a little bit more reliable. So they were pleased, and at the same time, kind of vamping time.
Well, it's tough because I know acting is very competitive. I think the last figure I heard was only 1 or 2 or 3% of actors are really
Making a
readily
living at
employed,
it.
right?
Yeah.
The
percentages are just horrific. The membership of the Screen Actors Guild and the number that actually make anything over $25,000 a year is a minuscule percentage.
Did you ever think, in your wildest dreams, that you would be sitting here connected with Star Trek 25 years later, celebrating the silver anniversary and everything?
Well, if anything, what I predicted at the time that we were shooting the pilot film was that this show is going to be a quality show. The script was put together with a great deal of integrity and imagination. That the crew and the personnel involved were people that were really many notches above the norm in television. And I said, television isn't known for respecting quality, so at best, this series is going to, if it sells as a series, is going to last at best 2 seasons. Well, here we are past 2 decades, so no, I never dreamt that I'd be sitting here talking to you about our silver anniversary.
It's amazing because I know a lot of shows would love to get half that far, let alone 25 years. I mean, you're in good company with shows like maybe Gunsmoke or something that went for 25 or 30 years. So it's amazing the longevity of it all, and you've had more luck as you've gotten into motion pictures, and it's a real phenomenon.
Well, the thing about it that makes this unique is we were not that popular on television first run. We only had 3 seasons, despite the fact that we announced at the beginning of each episode that we were on a 5-year mission. And then after that kind of cancellation very prematurely, for it to enjoy this kind of popularity that's been enjoying in syndication subsequently, and then to come back as a series of major feature films. And here we are about to release a 6th major film of Star Trek. I don't think any other showbiz phenomenon has enjoyed this kind of success.
Or staying power.
Exactly.
We had talked to Michelle and Jimmy, just the fact that you've made yourself an historic presence that'll never go away. And it's something that even years and years from now, it'll always go on, and you'll always be remembered no matter what, which is great. That's unusual.
Well, I'm not so arrogant as to think that we're going to be, this huge, enormous landmark. Certainly, Star Trek is enormously popular right now, and we see it as a major achievement, which it really, truly is. But everything in this business eventually comes to pass, and with enough time passing, it'll fade. But it will remain remembered by a lot of people fondly. But I don't think, for example, what were some of the really big popular shows of some time back? They've come and they've gone, and some people remember them, but ultimately they're just going to be a little paragraphs in the history book of.
Then again, if Paramount keeps marketing, who knows?
That's true. The economic thing may continue, and as long as they continue to make money, then it will be this kind of mega phenomenon. Certainly, I think the feature films are going to enjoy a long life in terms of reruns. They may outlive all of us actors, when we're long gone, but everything ultimately goes. My college thesis was on Arthur Hopkins, one of the most lauded directors of the Broadway theater around the turn of the century. He's the one that did John Barrymore's Hamlet, Lionel Barrymore's Macbeth, Ethel Barrymore as Juliet and Romeo and Juliet, all the major landmark productions. He's the one that introduced Eugene O'Neill to the Broadway theater. He was the single most lauded producer, director, theater man of his time. And yet, how many people really know who Arthur Hopkins is today? Enough time goes by and you become a well-noted part of the history books, but just that.
I've talked with you in the past, and you've always expressed how the character of Sulu should be advancing further with Starfleet. Now, with the coming of Star Trek VI, apparently we found out that you made captain now finally. Or you have a command.
Is that so?
This is what we hear.
Well, that's what I hear too, but
you can't
we
tell
also
us.
have a dicta from Paramount Studios. If we want to live long and prosper,
You can't say
we
too
have
much.
to keep the plot convolutions.
Well, let me rephrase it. And you have a certain amount to do in this picture. Are you happy with what you as an actor have done in this new picture, and then maybe as a whole, what the picture, how you think the picture is going to be received?
I'm very happy. I'm enormously pleased with the film, and my prediction is that Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country will probably rank as the single biggest box office success of all of the feature films. And that's going to take some doing, because Star Trek IV, I think, went well past $140 million. And so I'm going out on a limb by saying we're going to probably do better than $140 million.
That'd be great. I know other people were talking about it in terms of 2 and 4, and which is ironically Nicholas Meyer being involved in all of it. And when I had first heard he was involved, I felt much better too.
And he's involved in a double capacity here, a double whammy of Nick Meyer. He's directing and he's co-written this project.
Was the original story by Leonard Nimoy? Or the original?
It's a combination of Leonard and Nicholas and the co-writer. Oh dear, I really should have done my homework. The other guy that contributed to the writing.
Well, we'll look them up.
My mind's a blank.
I noticed too, when you were on Good Morning America, they had a shot of you and Jimmy sitting there. And I know that both of you were inferring that there could be a Star Trek VII, but I want to know if there was a way you could explain more. Were you trying to make an inference that there was definite things in Star Trek VI that the fans will pick up on?
Well, in every Star Trek film, there are seeds planted that could be developed as a subsequent sequel. But what determines whether there will be a sequel or not is the box office of the film that's out currently. And if it doesn't do well, there won't be a sequel. The only film that didn't do well of the Star Trek series is Star Trek V.
Mm-hmm.
However, what saved Star Trek for Star Trek VI, despite the box office failure of Star Trek V, is the fact that we're here at 1991, which happens to be the 25th anniversary of Star Trek,
Right.
and Paramount thought that might be a vehicle on which to launch a marketing campaign, not just for the picture, but for a lot of other peripheral products, lunch pails, T-shirts, medallions,
Greeting cards. I've already got mine.
underpants, and all sorts of things.
I haven't seen anything like this with marketing in a long time, and a lot of the stuff, I'm not going to say everything, but a lot of the stuff I've seen has been good. Like, in a nice quality
They are going
stuff,
for quality now, yeah.
you know, instead of just making schlock stuff, you know, or whatever.
It is, something that you get an opportunity to do something like this only once every 25 years. So
Right.
you do need to protect that franchise by doing something quality.
Are you personally open to any future movies? I know Paramount's kind of categorically saying that this is it.
But you have to think back on the history of all the Star Trek movies. Paramount has said that's it with every one of the films. The very first one was titled Star Trek, the motion picture. I mean, that suggests only one. And they indeed did say that that's the only Star Trek movie. But when the box office was unexpectedly big, they decided to do one sequel. And the sequel was supposed to be so final that we killed off Spock. And you can't have, another Star Trek without Spock.
Right.
But when that made a ton of money, they said they'll do a trilogy, which means 3, only 3. If you have 4, it won't be a trilogy. So they said it was going to be a trilogy, and the third one was supposed to be so final that the Enterprise went down in flames. And the real star of Star Trek is the Enterprise.
Right.
And so, that was supposed to be the final one. And so on and so on. Each one, had the suggestion that that was going to be the last one. And here's number 6, and once again, they're saying this is the last one. Just stay tuned. The box office for Star Trek VI will determine whether there's going to be a 7 or not, and my feeling is that the box office will be enormous.
Well, we appreciate you being with us, George. I'm looking forward to seeing those movies and so forth. And, of course, I wish you luck in anything that you do, and we really do look forward to seeing Star Trek, and maybe Sulu will get a series of his own,
Who knows? Who knows what mysterious things can happen?
Anyway, I really appreciate you being here. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Enjoy.